now let's look at my bulk import test. So this was something I was playing around with. So the project it's a real risk register that's sanitized, and I've just thought there's loads of risks on here. I just want to see how Safran performs under the load. I think it was like 150 risks or something like that. To give the project a name, maybe a shorthand reference, find where on the hierarchy tree it's going to live, and what kind of stage life cycle is it at. Is there a customer? Because you might want to group some reports and aggregate reports under particular customers. So if you have 17 contracts with a rail company, and maybe 5 contracts with a highways company, you might want to report on those things separately in different divisions and so forth. So yes, you can use the hierarchy tree for that, but you might also want to just have the customer name listed in there, because the rail sector might subdivide into metros in cities, intercity travel with a different provider, international railway links. There could be all kinds of different subdivisions of different types of customer within the rail sector and so forth. So that's generally why you want to have and see that kind of stuff. Permission, who's the project manager and the risk manager that's actually doing the approvals of the risks, in terms of their risk status, going from unapproved to approved, and then finalizing the lessons learned and close out of the risk and feeding back the lessons learned. And then everyone that can actually see the risks and raise risks on that project are then listed down here as team members. Assess, this is when you pick which scoring system you're going to attribute to any given project. It's also where the assessment criteria, so this is the David Hilson Atom. So you can say, well, it's going to be that, it's going to be that. You come up with a unique score for that project. It tells you how risky that project is. You hit the calculate button, and then it gives you, okay, you're only a level 1. So a level 1 would mean something to you, like it would. A level 1 would mean pick this scoring system, is what it's really saying. It's an appropriate level of scoring system, but it also means you've learned something about how risky it is, and if it can be part of the 9 stable projects or the 1 basket case. Maybe we're going to make lots of money, maybe we're going to lose lots of money, we don't know. Kind of risk reward kind of scoring system. So you want to have a different scoring system for that, because you want to be more proactive with your risk management on such a project than compared to your bread and butter everyday projects. Anyway, deliverables, setting up the key dates, the access dates, what is at risk. This is hugely important. So risk registers have the ability in Safran Risk Manager to look at the context of the objective and say, yeah, mapping my risks against these objectives. I think that's very valuable to do. Dare I say essential. I mean, otherwise, why are we doing risk management if there are no deliverables, if there are no objectives? Then we also have phasing. So phasing is what we do to help with some of the reports. We time phase the impact of risk. So you map your risk, you categorize it against one of these. It could be like the mobilization phase, the main works phase, the fit out towards the end phase. So you've got these different phases, and it would then link the impact of that risk to those things. So do you remember there was right at the start when we were looking at Jonathan, the engineer's summary, he had the trigger dates and the risk expiry dates. This is when the risk can hurt us. You can alternatively, to save time and administration, reduce that down. You can map risks to these and inherit the phasing as this is the time of the project that it could hurt us, so that you only edit. So if there's change management on a project, and there will be, projects just are in constant flux and change. So the client says, here's the new scope that I need you to add into the project. You go, fine, that is going to increase the design phase of the project. It's going to knock everything out. There's no schedule in here. There's no critical path map. There's no Gantt chart, but you can edit the dates and extend the design phase of this project, and then any risks that were mapped to it previously now inherit the new date. So you might have 200 risks and they all inherit new dates instantly. So you reduce your administration.
Yeah.
is something I remember having to do all the time in big enterprise risk management style databases, was manually going to all 200 of those risks and edit the trigger and expiry dates for each. This way, just a smarter approach, right?
Yeah.
Not going to say that was my idea. It definitely was my idea. Here's a real pain point from a real risk manager. Could we do this, please? That and the feedback thing on the dashboard were probably my two biggest contributions. Anyway, CADEC, it's an acronym. So it stands for, if you just do an add new category, change management, assumption, constraints, dependencies, exclusions. So these are the high level things that people like in the senior team are thinking. So when they start a project, before they've even spoken to a single engineer, they should be able to look at the contract documentation and say, there's a interesting assumption, or that's an or oh my goodness, we're delivering the Olympic Games on that date. There's a constraint, we have to be done. So you can build a picture of where the risks are because of the nature of the dependencies and what's being excluded from the contract, or maybe it's grey, it's a bit silent, is that in or out of the contract? So you might want to be clear and say, this risk we are not taking, and you want to communicate that confidently back to the client organization and say, look, we think these are your risks, and put their name as risk owner on some of those things, which actually, just interestingly, is going back to our bow tie. You can assign different actions to each part of the bow tie. So you've multiple causes, multiple consequences, but you might have different individuals that would be best suited, best placed to mitigate those respective things. So although you have one risk owner, as a team of subcontractors, principal contractors, client side project managers, you all have a kind of part to play in the dance that is delivering the project together. You all want to see the project done well. You want to go home and say, do you know what, we did a really good project there, and we're proud of that achievement together, and we helped each other. So you might raise the risk once and then collaboratively and transparently mitigate it together in the bow tie, in a picture, which we'll see the picture in a moment, very soon. But I just like to throw that one out there. But anyway, so you can, I like to think of the CADEC register here. We've got some anticipated PMI changes, some scope not explicitly identified at the tender stage. We've got tunnel boring machines. It's are we doing the abandonment thing where we just leave it in the ground, or are we recovering it? Because there might be some challenges. So you might describe what you're thinking. So it's like a mini risk register, top down. When you get to the actual execution and delivering of the project, the actual engineers, the actual project managers, the actual enabling functions will tell you what the risks actually are. And then we allow you to marry top down and bottom up risk identification to one another.